to the Monday, October 25th, 2021, 6 p.m. regular meeting of the Bell Garden Successor Agency to the Community Development Commission. The meeting will now come to order. Pursuant to Assembly Bill 361, please be advised that members of the Bell Garden Successor Agency may participate in today's meeting telephonically. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting live online through the city's website as noted on the agenda. If any agency members should have a conflict of interest virtually, please leave the room by turning off video and muting yourself. You may still keep listening to the meeting. Tonight's invocation will be given by Councilmember Cortez, and I will be giving the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Cortez, if you can do us the honor.
Lord, we are meeting today to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being our source of guidance today. Amen.
Thank you, Council Member. And now everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone, please face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you. Agency Secretary, will you please call the roll of the successor agency?
Yes, Chair. Agency Member Chavez.
Present.
Cortez.
Present.
Flores. Present. Vice Chair Pulido.
Present.
Chair Barcena.
Present. Thank you. We will now move to the first item on the agenda. Public participation is open. Agency Secretary, are there any public speakers?
There are no written comments. We will now open the lines to see if there's anyone wishing to speak. The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on the items listed on the regular successor agency meeting agenda. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the chair and agency member. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by pressing *9. When instructed, press *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom. Should I log her in first? Should I log her in first?
Tell her that.
Like it's for account. We had a. Sorry, I got tangled up in here. Sonia, we see that you made a comment. Did you want to make a comment based on the successor agency meeting item? Can we go ahead and allow her to make a comment?
I don't know. Were you able to hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. I'm sorry. I'm a little new to this. Sorry about this. But I'm learning as I'm going. So I'll just go ahead and wait till it's my turn. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So I believe that was the only speaker we had. And now, if there's no objection by the agency members, I will close public participation and we'll move to the consent calendar. Does any member of the agency wish to pull the item for separate discussion? Okay, may I have a motion to approve item number 1? I will go ahead and move to approve item number 1. May I have a second?
I'll go ahead and second.
All right, second by Councilmember Flores. I'll go ahead and take it to a roll call. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Flores?
Yes.
agency member, so I want to do the roll call again. I'm supposed to be calling agency members. So agency member Chavez.
Yes.
Thank you. Agency member Flores.
Yes.
Agency member Pulido.
Yes.
And just for myself, and I believe one of our council members stepped out very briefly. Legal, should we wait for them or?
It's up to you, Mayor.
Okay. She's coming back, so we'll just wait a couple of seconds. We're voting on item number 1 in the consent calendar for the agency. And everyone submitted their vote. They voted yes. We're waiting for your vote.
It would be a yes vote.
Yes for agency member Cortez. So the item passes unanimously. And now we're going to be moving to public participation on non-agenda items. Secretary, are there any speakers?
There are no written comments. We will now open the lines to see if there's anyone wishing to speak. The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on the items listed on the successor agency meeting agenda. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the chair and agency members. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by pressing *9. When instructed, press *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature. It doesn't look like there's any comments for this item.
Okay, thank you. If there's no objection by the agency members, I will close public participation. Does any agency member wish to make a comment? If there's no objection by the successor agency, I will adjourn the successor agency meeting at 6:16 p.m. and call to order the city council meeting. Good evening and welcome to the Monday, October 25th, 2021, 6 p.m. regular meeting of the Bell Garden City Council. The meeting will now come to order. Pursuant to Assembly Bill 361, please be advised that members of Bell Gardens City Council may participate in today's meeting telephonically. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting live online through the city's website as noted on the agenda. If any city council members should have a conflict of interest virtually, please leave the room by turning off video and muting yourself. You may still keep listening to the meeting. City Clerk, will you please call the roll of the City Council?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Chavez,
Present.
Cortez,
Present.
Flores,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Pulido,
Present.
Mayor Barcena.
Present, thank you. City Attorney, will you please give the closed session reports for the City Council and successor agency?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Chair, the records reflect that the City Council successor agency recessed in the closed session to discuss the items posted on the City Council and the successor agency agendas. With respect to all of the items listed on both agendas, the successor agency and the City Council received a report from legal counsel. Feedback was provided, but no final action was taken. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to the first item on the agenda. Public participation is now open for items listed on the agenda. City Clerk, are there any speakers?
Sorry, Mayor, we're actually on presentations.
Oh, I apologize for that. We're gonna go back to presentations. And we do have one presentation here. I believe some of these presentations have been removed, and I'll ask for the city manager for an update on that.
Yes, Mayor Barcena, the Assembly Member Garcia and the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy, that item's been moved, so we're going to reschedule that for on a future date. The next item is still going to happen. This is the Calhoun Grant Recipient Awards. That will be on the box on our Zoom meeting titled Presentation. So it'll be conducted up in the EOC, since we're not allowing public in the council chambers here. So we'll see Gus Romar, Community Development Director, is there, along with our administrator for the Calhoun program, along with 4 recipients of funding from the program as well. So if you're okay, Mayor, I'll turn it over to Gus Romo to start with the presentation.
Thank you. Please do.
Mayor and members of the City Council. Gives me great pride to be able to be here today to have these checks awarded to our residents. We've worked hard to try to get this program to you, and our grants consultant, Omar Hernandez with Global Urban Strategies, has been very successful in bringing this to us. He's now administering the CalHome grant for both first-time home buyers and for residential improvements. So without further to say, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Omar so he can tell you what he's been doing, how he's been marketing this, and present it to the 4 families we have with you today. Omar?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you today to go and present these checks. It's a momentous occasion for these families. And you had the foresight to go after these funds to be able to go and make these loans available to these families. So with no further ado, I want to go and present two families that are going to be new homeowners. And I think it's very, very important. Would you come up, Gustavo, and just present it to Mr. Oscar Avila and his family? This is a check for $100,000. Now, they can't take this to the bank, but we have another check that they could actually cash.
Right over here, sir. Come on, come on. You want to hold it over here?
So this check. So this represents several months of us working with them and making sure that they had all the documentation in place. And this was also part of the program that you guys, as council members and you members of the council, were able to go and do an affordable unit, 2 affordable units here in the city. So we were able to do this, and with that, they're able to get $100,000. And are able to go and get these homes. Escrow is scheduled to close by next week, so they'll be able to go into their homes in about a week.
Great, I want to thank you guys, but before I say a few words here, I'm going to open it up to my colleagues, if you guys have any comments.
I just wanted to, le quería preguntar a la familia que recibió los fondos si ustedes quieren decir algo, si se sienten felices y por favor nos pueden compartir sus experiencias y cómo se sienten, porque nosotros aquí luchamos para estos fondos para ustedes, pero nunca a veces no siempre tenemos la oportunidad de hablar con ustedes, los beneficiarios. So, si nos pueden compartir algo, por favor.
Bien que nada, muchas gracias a todos, a Omar, a la ciudad de Bell Gardens por darnos la oportunidad de conseguir nuestro sueño, de tener nuestra casa para la familia. Más que nada, pues muchas gracias, porque es difícil para uno. A veces uno no tiene los recursos necesarios, en el cual se le batalla pues para conseguir eso que realmente requiere de muchos requisitos, y a través del programa aquí con Omar se pudo hacer, y pues gracias a Dios y muchas gracias de antemano a todos.
Muchas gracias, felicidades.
Councilmember Cortez, did you want to add some remarks?
Sí, solamente le quiero dar a decir felicidades. Creo que tenemos otras presentaciones de otras personas que también pudieron obtener este préstamo. So, ya de una vez les digo a todos felicidades, que gran logro que puedan lograr su sueño, y que nosotros pudimos ser parte de eso y ayudarlos aunque sea un poquito. So, muchas felicidades, y ojalá y nos den un tour de su casa cuando ya la tengan, ¿eh?
I'd like to present the other family that will be receiving the $100,000 check. Would you please join me? So once again, she is not a single family. She is not just a one member of our family. She has several children that will be with that home. And she's very happy to be able to go and be a homeowner. But you can speak to her, you can ask her what she liked, what everything was like. And we're very, very happy to be able to go and provide this loan on behalf of the city of Bell Gardens. And, you know, like I said before, the foresight that you had in order to go after these funds and be able to make this home available to these families. Want to say a few words?
Just thank you to Omar and his staff. I appreciate everyone on behalf of my family. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We appreciate you as
Congratulations.
well.
These families will be receiving their keys by next week. Like I said, escrow will be closing and they'll be able to go and obtain these funds. Now, the Cal Home program also has a home improvement program or the owner occupied rehab. And we have a couple of families here that are going to be doing home improvements. So would you please come up? Luis, please. Yeah. This is a current homeowner here in the city who will be doing some major repairs to an ADU unit that they have. So they was out of compliance, so we're going to bring them into compliance and fix some other items in their property. So I'm very, very happy that we're able to go and help them through that. They're going through the permitting process right now, and we'll be going. They've already gotten their contractor, so we'll be going and moving forward with this sooner than later. ¿Quisiera decir algo?
Sí, gracias Omar por la ayuda que nos ha brindado y también la City de Bell Garden. Gracias a ustedes también por esta gran ayuda y la verdad mi familia va a estar muy agradecida porque es muy difícil a veces colectar esta cantidad de dinero para poder arreglar nuestras casas y eso pues yo estoy muy contento y mi familia les agradece mucho también a ustedes. Gracias.
Gracias, felicidades.
And now we have another family. Once again, they came into the city because code enforcement had gone to their home and informed them that they needed to do some repairs to an existing ADU. We went over there and we were able to work with them with Gus and his team, and we're able to go and get all the documentation that's necessary in order to make this $75,000 home improvement available to them. Pásale, por favor.
Quiero agradecer especialmente, yo me enteré por este programa, por la concejala señorita Alejandra Cortés. Gracias, señorita Alejandra. Y por usted también, señor Omar, por la ayuda que nos han otorgado, señorita Cintia. Gracias por todo y por la ciudad de Bell Gardens, por el apoyo que nos dan a nuestras familias. Gracias.
Me da muchísimo gusto ver de que sí pudieron completar el proceso. Yo me senté con usted y con la señora Mora y con el señor Gus y le dije que aquí la íbamos a ayudar para que pudiera hacer sus cambios y qué bueno que se animó a poder cambiar a su unidad, lo que es un ADU compliant unit, para que así pues pueda vivir a gusto y también pues un poquito más de dinero, ¿verdad? Pero
Sí.
felicidades y qué bueno que sí lo completó.
Gracias.
These are just one of many loans that we hope to make in the next couple of months. We have approximately another 20 people that we're going in the process, or 20 homes that are looking to go and get ADUs and various different repairs to their property being done. And we also have some first-time home buyers that are looking to get all their paperwork ready. And once we do that, we'll be able to go and provide that loan on behalf of the city. So with that said, if you have any comments or would you like to say something, I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Omar, for the presentation. Thank you to the City of Bell Gardens and Cal Home for making this happen for our residents. Felicidades a los residentes que ahora ya están un paso más cerca al sueño americano, como dicen. Queremos darles todo el apoyo que se merecen y este es un gran paso en ese proceso. So we are here to support you. We're here to help you in any way that we can. And this is one big step to accomplishing your goals and, you know, achieving the American dream. So congratulations again. And if any of our council has any final words to say, this will be the moment.
I just wanted to add to my colleagues' comments. Muchas felicidades a las familias. Honestamente, en nuestra posición tenemos la virtud de ayudar a mucha gente en diferentes formas, pero alcanzar el sueño de ser dueños de casa creo que es uno de los más grandes. Y es un placer y un honor poder ser una testigo a este alcance, esta meta. So, muchísimas felicidades a las familias. Ahora tienen que quedarse aquí en Bell Gardens. So, ahora ya están atrapados con nosotros. Los vamos aquí ¿cómo se dice? A seguir apoyando y ustedes también con nosotros. Así es que lo que se les ofrece, aquí estamos para servirles. Y again, congratulations to everybody. Thank you so much to Omar for making this happen and to all of my colleagues for supporting this because we couldn't have done this if we were separated. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Flores. And now we're gonna go and take a 5-minute break before we go over our final presentation. So we'll be back shortly in 5 minutes. Thank you. Back, we're gonna resume the meeting now, coming back from our break. And we are in the presentation section of the meeting. We do have a Breast Cancer Awareness Month proclamation, and we have a request from Councilmember Flores to read this proclamation. So if she would like to read it, she
I
can
would
go
love
ahead
to
and
read it.
send that over.
Yes, I did request for this proclamation. Thank you so much, Mayor Barcena, for supporting. And I'll jump right into it. I didn't pre-read this, guys, so if I said it wrong, just bear with me. So this is the City of Bell Gardens proclamation, a proclamation in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas 1 in 8 women in the United States will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime. And in 2021, the US alone, an estimated 281,550 new cases of invasive breast cancer, as well as 49,000 new cases of non-invasive in situ breast cancer will be diagnosed, and an estimated 43,600 women will die. And breast cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer among American women, and a woman's risk of breast cancer nearly doubles if she has a first-degree relative, mother, sister, daughter who has been diagnosed with breast cancer. About 85% of breast cancer occur in women who have no family history of breast cancer. Although the exact cause of breast cancer is unknown, most experts agree that there are several factors that increase your risk, such as gender, age, genetics, family history, weight, and race. And although rare, men also get breast cancer. And in 2021, an estimated 2,650 men in the United States will be diagnosed with breast cancer, and approximately 530 will die. And we applaud the advocates, medical professionals, researchers, and caregivers who dedicate their lives to making progress towards cures. And even with all the new and effective treatments, we must continue to stand alongside those stricken with and survivors of breast cancer in a united effort to seek out better and more effective treatments, or ultimately a cure for the many forms of breast cancer. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Marco Barcena, Mayor of the City of Bell Gardens, with the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and encourage all residents of Bell Gardens to increase awareness by having annual detection practices and pay tribute to those who have lost their lives to breast cancer. Proclaimed this 25th day of October 2021. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Flores, for reading that proclamation, and thank you to staff for putting together those great words of encouragement for all of our members of our community to not only be respectful of the disease and and be conscious that we can fight it by spreading awareness of it, right? So go out there, spread awareness, and get tested so that we can detect all those cases early, and we can be more proactive about preventing more serious complications that come from cancer, breast cancer. Does anyone else have any questions, any comments? Sorry.
I just want to add, Mayor, that this proclamation from the City of Bell Gardens, I'd like to personally, from my behalf, dedicate it to my aunt who is a survivor of breast cancer, and to my good friend Lupe Maria from Bell Gardens, who recently beat breast cancer and just walked her first breast cancer awareness. I think it's like a marathon. So congratulations, women, and to all the women that I have not met, keep on fighting. Women, we're fighters and we can do it, but remember that we need our men. And so men, remember that breast cancer can also happen to you. So let's continue to spread that awareness. And thank you again, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, council member. And that concludes our presentations for the day. We are now going to open public participation on agenda items only. City Clerk, are there any speakers? And before we move into it, I want to make sure that the speakers know that this section is only for agenda items. So if you have comments that do not relate to any of the items listed on the agenda, we will have a section at the end of our meeting for non-agenda item comments. So you're welcome to submit your comments there. However, this time it's only for comments related to items on the agenda. Madam City Clerk, are there any speakers?
Thank you, Mayor. There are no written comments. We will now open the lines to anyone wishing to speak. The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on the items listed on the City Council meeting agenda. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the mayor and council members. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to make comments may do so at this time by pressing *9. When instructed, press *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise the hand feature on Zoom. Great. It looks like we have someone on there, so we'll go ahead and start with Matthew. If we can go ahead, host, let Matthew in.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Temp, and the council members, Mr. City Manager. My name is Matthew Kotanjan. I represent AAA Rubbish. We're a local small waste and recycling company located in the City of Bell Gardens, and we've had the opportunity to service our customers since May 1st, 2005. I want to personally thank you all for allowing us to continue to operate in the city within the next 5 years. But more importantly, we're really concerned about the issuance of the 5-year notice. That's something that we're very concerned about. And we're hoping that we can keep the status quo of the 5-year notice. We have very strong relationships with a lot of our customers that we service in the city. We handle all the recycling needs. We're now implementing, food waste programs. And sometime on or about June, July of 2022, we're going to be working with several other haulers to innovate the food waste process by recycling most of the material that we collect in our trucks. And the economic incentives that we provide to the city, we dine in the city every single day. We take all of our vehicles to Ozzy's Automotive, located on Florence Place in the city. And we just want to be able to have the opportunity to continue within the next 5 years. And even after 5 years, we'd like to be in the city, forever. But I understand there's a lot of challenges that the city faces through CalRecycle, but we've never let the city down, and we're ready to move. And we're ready to strive and move forward and make sure that the city is in compliant in the next couple of years. Because I understand the city's not going to be fined, until 2023, 2024. So we have a few years to make sure that all of us are compliant, and we're gonna do our best to make sure that we are in compliance. So I thank you very much. Sorry for speaking so fast, but I appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak on this behalf.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Mr. Matthew. Do we have any more speakers?
Yes, Mayor, we'll go ahead and start with Nicole. Host, can you let Nicole in?
Hi, honorable council members. My name is Nicole Kuklak Waldman, and I'm here on behalf of AAA Rubbish. We're really glad to be here, and we appreciate the city extending the franchise for the existing non-exclusive users in Bell Gardens. We very much appreciate that. We'd just like to bring forth and note the fact that the 5-year expiration is really not necessary for a number of reasons. You have a non-exclusive franchise that allows you to control the participants in the market and making sure that they are complying with the law, including all the new zero waste initiatives coming down from Sacramento, which are very important. And just like the large producers, the smaller companies can also very much comply and take these responsibilities very seriously. We don't want to get caught in the kind of false narrative that you need one big producer to do that. Los Angeles did that, and it was an utter and total failure. I joke that was the first time I actually saw rats in my city, but it was absolutely true. So we appreciate your consideration. We know that there is a lot on your plate, and the state does give you a lot of mandates, and you have to figure out how to pay for them. But we just want to note that the smaller scale producers are more than able to help the city comply with all of its mandates and ensure compliance moving forward. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak? If they can please use the raise hand feature.
City Clerk, we have a message in the chat from Mr. Mendez. Did he submit a written comment for public comment?
Not a written comment, but we did see him raise his hand earlier, so we can go ahead and call on him as well. We'll go ahead and start with Sonia. Sonia, host, can you please let Sonia in as well?
Just unmuted.
Hi, good evening to all the council. How are you doing this evening? Todos bien? Eso. Good. I'm glad to hear this. I'm a little nervous. I never really Zoom, so I'm so sorry. But the reason I'm reaching out to all of you is because in behalf of my staff and my family, me, in regards to item number 14, from El Picante here in the city of Bell Gardens. We've been in the city going on 37 years. It's been a family-owned restaurant, and we have been here. We call it our home. Right now, the reason I'm reaching out is because I believe I'm trying to see what we can do in regards to being able to continue doing our events. We've tried to maintain a level of noise, but there's been at a certain level, but there's been complaints where I honestly feel like the majority has, well, not the majority, the one specific is because we've been targeted. I feel like it's a personal level. It's a relative of I'll even say it. I kind of feel bad. And that's why I'm nervous right now, because I know that this is going to be taken as I'm not out to get anyone, but I had a small run-in with I'll just say somebody on the council, I'll say it like that, or her name is Rocio, so I know we're going to know who this is directed to. It's the sister of somebody on the Zoom. Now, what I'm getting at is they say that there's a lot of noise. You know what? That house is a couple houses down from where we're at. The houses that are closer to us, they don't complain about the noise. So I'm trying to see what is it that we can do to make it so we can continue providing jobs for the city residents that work for us, that provide for their families. I provide for my family. I'm a single mom. And like I said, we've been there 37 years. So I'm just trying to find a happy medium. I'm not trying to get anyone mad. I'm not trying to do anything that I'm not supposed to be doing. I just want to be able to keep my doors open and continue to provide for my family and my staff. I feel like this has been more of on a personal level rather than in regards to the noise. I have sound engineers that are working with me and that measure the decibel levels of the noise for the music. so that we can maintain it at a certain level where it'll still be okay for the residents that are there, which, like I said, hasn't really been a point other than for 1 or 2 people. I feel that we've even been providing for the businesses around us, like for different events we have. There's a business that opened across the street. I told them, you know, I know them on a personal level. So I asked them if they could even contribute selling their pizza, knowing that I have a restaurant, just so they can help bring revenue to their business. Now, I feel like there's enough in the pot for everyone. Now, people usually leave Bell Gardens when they feel like they want to go out, like say to a movie or something. Of
Sorry,
entertainment.
ma'am,
Yes.
your 3 minutes is up.
Okay, I imagine. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Well, what can we do, or what do you suggest, Mayor? Now that I have you and you're speaking to me personally, what can I do to help continue having my events? Because I feel like I said, like your sister is targeted. Now I'm going to tell you personally, and I'm talking to you directly, that I'm being targeted by your sister.
Miss
And I feel
Canelo-
like it's on a personal level rather than a noise level, because I can work on that.
Ms. Canella?
Yes.
If you'd like to send or an email to the city manager or call tomorrow, somebody will get back to you. We're not able to engage in a back and forth during public comment. Okay?
So what can I do? What can I do besides that to bring
what-
this up again and see what I can do? Because I want to collab with you
Right.
guys to see
Yeah,
what
so-
it is that can be done.
Somebody will, like I said, if you call tomorrow, the city manager's office, somebody will get back to you, and then you can have that discussion with them at that point.
And I just want to say, I'm not entirely sure the angle that this is coming up, but I am more than willing to meet and talk about the issues that you mentioned. I'm really open to working with everyone in the community. So I appreciate you bringing this comment to the council, and hopefully we'll be in contact soon. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
council members. Thank you for your time.
Bye-bye.
All right, Mayor, we're going to go ahead and go with our next speaker, Gustavo Mendez. If you're interested in speaking, you can do so now. Let Mr. Mendez in.
Put this away.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you very much for your time. As stated, I'm Gustavo Mendez. I'm a recent homeowner in Bell Gardens. I want to take this time in expressing my interest in being part of the Recreation, Cultural, and Youth Commission, or Traffic and Safety Commission. I have expressed my interest when I submitted my application March of this year. And I've seen the great work that the city has done in terms of community events, the economic development, and the safety and security measures that have been taken in place. I've done a referral not too long ago, and it was addressed very promptly. And I just want to continue that momentum here at Bell Gardens. I feel that my experience and former roles as a public commissioner for, as a commissioner in public safety, and also as a planning commissioner, I have the skills necessary to fulfill those duties in those roles, and at the same time to increase civic engagement. That's it. I thank you for your time and consideration, and thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak may do so now by raising their hand. All right, Mayor, I don't see anyone else with raising their hand.
Okay, thank you. There's no objection by the city council. I will close public participation. City manager, will you please give your report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barcena. For anybody that saw the presentation for the Cal Home Awards, we have a website, bgcalhome.com. So you can find information there for anybody that saw those large checks and is interested in getting one for themselves or their family. And congratulations to those residents. Also wanted to mention, we unfortunately had to cancel the Aquatic Center groundbreaking demolition event today due to the rain event that occurred. It looks like in polling the council, it looks like November 13th at noon, right after the fishing derby, looks like the date that we will be rescheduling to. So we'll confirm with the council first, and then we'll make sure we get social media out for that purpose. We're really excited about that event. Also, just want to keep mentioning, we have COVID testing Monday through Friday from 11 to 5 at Veterans Park. There's also vaccine and booster shots available. So on Tuesdays, it's Pfizer from 12:30 to 4 at Veterans Park. And for those of you that, I know the Pfizer seems to be very prevalent over the last 6 months or so. I think for those of you that got the Moderna shot, may have been closer to 9 months ago. There is a Moderna booster available this Thursday from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. at Veterans Park. Also want to mention we have a lot of events coming up. Halloween on Sunday, Halloween Carnival at Veterans Park, 4 to 8. We've got some signs up at the monuments, the major monuments for the city within Bell Gardens. Also, the next day, Dia de los Muertos, same park, 5:30 to 9 p.m. So if you're watching your calories or trying to keep your diabetes down, you're gonna have to wait another week or two for that. There'll be a lot of fun on both of those nights. Also, just want to mention, this was a request that came from council, I believe at the last meeting. We have a fair housing workshop from 4 to 7 at Ross Hall this Wednesday. This is being put on with the Fair Housing Foundation, and this is not just for renters also, but for landowners, property owners. So it'll be very comprehensive, and there'll be another one offered in the first week of November. But the more immediate one is on Wednesday from 4 to 7 p.m. Thank you, Mayor Barcena.
Thank you, City Manager. We will now move on to the consent calendar. Does any member of the City Council wish to pull items for separate discussion? We have items 1 through 10.
I'd like to pull item number 8, 9, 10, 7. And 3.
All right, may I have a motion to approve all other items except for 8, 9, 10, 7, and 3?
Yes, I'll go ahead and motion to approve those items.
I'll
Yeah.
second the motion, Cortez.
Okay, it's a motion by Flores and a second by Councilmember Cortez. And I'll take it to a vote. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Thank you, Cortez.
Yes.
Thank you, Flores.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Pulido.
Yes.
And yes for myself. So all items except for 8, 9, 10, 7, and 3 are approved. And we can go ahead and discuss item number 8. Councilmember Flores.
Actually, Mike, if I could, I'd like to go ahead and speak on items 7, 8, 9, and 10 as a block, as a conglomerate, since it's all on the same category. My only question or explanation that I like for the public is why is it that we did not go RFP? And what the services providing, what are the professional services that we are agreeing to? And the scope of time it's going to take for these projects to be executed.
Yes, Councilmember Flores. I'll start with a couple answers and then I'll turn it over to our Recreation Community Services Director. But so we did put out an RFP when we were working initially on the Aquatic Center at Ford Park, probably about 9 months ago. The result of the RFP after a pretty rigorous process was the selection of RJM Design Group to do design and engineering for the Aquatic Center. Since that time, there are additional improvements around the park, while not directly related to an aquatic center, do directly impact the aquatic center. And so for expedience of time and based on the selection process that already occurred, RJM was recommended to do this additional design and engineering work to improve the park so that it's really set up and ready for what we think is a world-class aquatic center. The way some of these things are set up currently are not conducive to this new aquatic center that we're putting so much energy, resources, and effort into. I'll turn it over to our director just to talk, I think to answer your question about what is the actual work that it is that RJM is doing.
And the timeframe. Your mic's off, and I think your camera might be too.
And just for clarity, I'm sorry, I should have turned this over to Grisel Chavez, our Public Works Director. Sorry, apologies to Roseanne and to Grisel. Thank you.
That's okay. Thank you. Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So I have a PowerPoint presentation with some pictures to try to help explain how these four proposed amendments to the contract are related, and the timing of it is critical at this point, because although we're going to be demolishing the existing aquatics building and the pool, it has an effect on other pieces of around the park that it would make it would be practical and prudent to save the city money and spend less time in going out to do a competitive process, to have those things that are already being designed and planned for now to build the new pool. They tie these in at the same time, but I'll try to explain a little bit better with the pictures. Thank you, Hylas. So as our city manager mentioned, back in February of this year, the city entered into an agreement with RJM. That's for engineering, architecture, design services for the construction of the new aquatic center. This is in the amount of approximately $1,037,000. And the existing activities that are affected by the demolition include, do I exit out? Okay, sorry, there you go. It blocked out for some reason. That should be good, I think. Thank you. So one of the things that was discovered during the initial design and job walks is that the public works trucks, the trash trucks, the truck that disposes of the septic tank that feeds the backyard now, as well as recreation employees, are having to drive through the park, entering from, if you see this picture in front of you, the red lane there that starts from the parking lot area. They drive that red path through the park, around the lake, all the way to the ending point on the far left of the picture, which is the yard, the current location of the yard. So it brought to light, obviously, some issues of concern, as you see from some pictures, big, heavy trucks driving through the park that's already busy with park goers, patrons, pedestrians having to get away for all these constant vehicles traversing through what's supposed to be a pedestrian walkway. So that was brought to light, and the need to relocate or abandon that driving behavior, right? Especially with the new aquatic center being built, a ton more kids and families enjoying the park, the aquatic center having to be faced with that type of movement and danger, and potentially leading the city to exposed liability, right? And obviously, because you've got heavy trucks and vehicle movement, you've got a lot of damaged walkways result that lead to trip and falls. We have last week, our crew started ripping out a lot of the concrete that's being damaged now, and we're working on replacing that. This aerial, again, attempting to show where the relocation would be. So you have the existing yard on the far corner of the park adjacent to the golf course. And then you've got the rectangle on the far east end of the park adjacent to the adult school, where the yard would be relocated. So eliminating, again, all that vehicle movement. It would be placed along the east end of the park, adjacent to the parking lot, a vehicle driveway dedicated so they come to and from. Trash trucks included, no more sewage tank disposal. So as you see in the aerial, it's over the site where we currently have a playground area that's mostly sand and deteriorated structures that are very worn. Half the slides are missing, they're damaged, they no longer make the pieces, they're boarded up. I also have some more pictures. And also a restroom building that has some environmental concerns like lead and asbestos and no longer functional beyond replacement, as well as the existing basketball courts that would all need to be adjusted, relocated with brand new structures that would address the safety concern of having to move the yard to eliminate vehicle path, but also address the deteriorated condition of the playground, the restroom, and bring ADA compliant play structures, surfacing that's going to be suitable, replacing the sand, and a new restroom building that will be really just a great welcome addition for the community. So again, if I can go skip to the drawing portion so you can see it. So this is essentially what that end of the park would look like, with the adult school on the east end there, a long driveway that would connect to the parking spaces for the employees, the trash truck area, an office trailer. And then just before that, you got the new relocated basketball courts, 3 courts. You got the new play structure and the restroom building next to it. So that's the proposal now to get that done. At the same time, here's pictures of the current play structures. Very large area. I think it's about 15,000 square feet. And just underutilized play structures, because again, some of them are boarded up. You kind of see there at the top of the slide, no longer usable. And this is our restroom building. Also has damaged termite, rotted wood throughout, just really, really poor shape. Probably a restroom that is in the worst condition of all our parks. So there's a sample of the restroom, of a prefabricated modular restroom that would be taking the place there, somewhat near where the arrow is, adjacent to the parking, the playground structures and the basketball courts. And that's just an example of the drawings for what the play structures could look like to fill that area, complete with new pour and play surfacing. Again, all ADA accessible, new, utilized by the many park goers there amongst our Bell Gardens families. There's just another close-up shot showing the yard that would abut the riverbed fencing and be secured with block wall, security lighting, safe area that wouldn't be subject to so much vandalism and theft that we experience now, where it currently is along the chain link / wrought iron fenced area along the riverbed on the far east end. And then we got the obviously the basketball court. So that long section of property along that eastern end of the park would now take the place of a new yard. So those are just some pictures to show. And if I can go back to the actual breakdown of what RJM would be completing for the, it's essentially architectural designs, drawings and specifications to get those improvements I noted out, getting them to be bid. Okay, so for example, starting with amendment number 1.1, relating to the gym and recreation building HVAC. So the current, another item that's related that isn't, I didn't put into pictures, but when the aquatic building pool is demolished now, the existing panel that feeds the electricity for the recreation offices and the gym and the auditorium are all fed off that panel. So when that building gets demolished, there's a new, prior to that, a new panel needs to be placed so that they continue to have power after it's demolished. So that triggers an unforeseen condition that now the architect needs to design for that, but also at the same time, relocating that panel. Well, what else is a power need? How much demand does the existing recreation offices need? Well, we know there's no HVAC system and it's very hot during the summer. So there's a need to design the panel power, the load for the new, if we wanted to improve and add the HVAC system to the gym and the auditorium, they need to then design a panel that will house all the electrical need for that added capacity. So it's just the timing of this all is what makes it makes sense to take advantage and design for it now, to not have to, again, waste time and spend more money later potentially. So this is a fee of $145,500 to get the construction drawings, the engineering done, the calculations done, for the a bid package to be sent out. And then at that time, competitive bids will be sought for the installation of a new HVAC system for the gym and the auditorium that's existing. That's separate than the new panel that will be temporarily providing power to the building based on the electrical need now, right? So it's two different projects tied to the electrical need now and the future. So estimated about, once it goes out to bid, we'll know the true cost, but right now at roughly $1.2 million estimated to build just the HVAC improvement to provide the heating, ventilation, air cooling for the gym and the auditorium. So the electrical relocation of the panel is just about $60,000 we expect. So those costs could be funded potentially from community development block grant monies, as well as with the existing aquatics construction budget for the $60,000 portion. If this is approved by council, it would require an appropriation from the community development block grant, as well as a formal amendment that would be done through a project form. So that would be the first part of the amendment here. Under Amendment 1.2, we're looking at the necessary research and assessment of an underground fuel tank that was discovered through the process, right, of the evaluating the site conditions, walking the site. So there's an underground fuel tank that we have no city record documents for. And it was also full of fuel, or some level of fuel. So I think approximately 4,500 gallons of fuel were removed the last few months. So prior to demolition of the existing building and the pool that you do see, there should be an assessment done to look at, is it really empty? What is the tank type? What are its conditions? Because the LA County has a very strict program that regulates the removal of tanks, make sure any environmental hazards that might have been existing are removed. If there's any soils remediation that needs to be done. So all of that is the study and the assessment that would be done by RJM. So we can define what's there and then properly include it in the bid package for removal. And so we don't have change orders that will increase costs and make it a more complex project and add time delays as well. So again, similar to all the amendments will require, could be funded by the community development block grant monies, but it does require a formal project amendment. So that's the request for council. If it's approved, to appropriate the monies from that community development block grant and then the project amendment form filing. Next under Amendment 1.3, we have scope of services again, architectural design and drawings to bid out the construction of new walkway lighting throughout Ford Park. As you are aware, there's existing light poles that are there throughout. Some are solar powered, some are hardwired. I'm told they were installed around 2010 and some failed in a short time thereafter. Most of them are not working. It's very dark at the park, come dusk. So additionally, some of those walkway lights are actually adjacent or along the construction path for the new aquatic center. So they have to be demolished. So again, at the same time, there's a need to install new walkway lighting. They have to remove some light poles, having to design for the removal and replacement, looking at the electrical circuits and the electrical load that would be needed to put not just 5 or 6 back, but look at a coordinated project to do it all at once. So that can be properly bid out and part of the design plans and drawings. That's potentially could be a cost of about $250,000. But again, the true cost will be known at the time it is competitively bid. And then we're looking at possible funds to build that improvement that if council would approve that. So that $250,000 cost, and again, the community development block grant appropriation would be needed, as well as the formal project amendment form. And lastly, we have again what I attempted to show in the pictures, the yard relocation tied as impact to the basketball courts, the playground structures, and the new restroom. So that's an architectural design and drawings and all the preparations and work scope that's needed to get it out to bid. We're looking at a fee of $283,450. And that would allow us to bid out the entire improvement. That it could be approximately $3.2 million to fully implement that entire east end of the park, the redesign. We're looking at, we have approximately about $1 million of Measure A funding now. Plus, if you recall, at one of the last council meetings, there was a state per capita funding that council approved to partially fund that restroom building you saw. So we're going to try to look for more funding to lower that $3 million cost down. But ultimately, through a combination of Measure A and CDBG funding is what we're hoping to be able to secure and be able to fund it 100%. We're hoping when it gets bid out that it actually cost would be a lot less, could be less. So with that concludes my report. So total, all the amendments, if you add them up, it's about $444,000. And they would each be acted upon accordingly with council's approval this evening. And I'm available to answer any questions council might have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Crystal.
I would just like to add, and thank you, Grisel, for that amazing report. Mayor Barson and myself had the opportunity to do a walkthrough as part of the pool ad hoc. And this is where staff had the opportunity to also point out all these different deficiencies within our park. So to be able to offer our community a complete project when it comes to our pool, we did start noticing, or our engineers began noticing all these other deficiencies that we needed to take care of. So today what we're looking into is just the engineering and design portion of it, and for it to be a complete movement, or for us to move along in a faster pace when it comes to our pool, it's easier for the same engineers to take care of the other aspects of the design of when it comes to the park. So one of the main things was the public works yard, because they are, when they start the demolition, they are going to block off that access route. And then not only that, but it was a complete hazard for our community, and how we allowed that to happen for so many years. I mean, it's something that we overlooked, but I'm glad we're here now to be able to reroute these trucks so that they're not going through our park as our community is visiting, and all the other improvements, I think, just come along with this. But I think it's a great project, and I think these are great amendments. So hopefully our council will support so that we can continue to move along with this project and offer our community a pool as soon as possible.
Thank you, council member. Are there any other comments, questions?
Yes, I'd like to finish my sentence. Thank you so much, Crystal. That was a great presentation. You see, we get an opportunity as council call members to review this information, and we talk with our city manager, we talk our directors, but our community members don't know. So when they see us just approve things on the consent calendar, they don't know. So all of a sudden, part of Fort Park is shut down. And now we have to personally explain on Facebook or however, like, why is it shut down? So when you give presentations like this, and why I pull consent items like this, although I know what it's for, it's not for me, it's for the residents, because they need to know what's happening. So that not only does it provide transparency, but it provides us with the opportunity to not have to go one by one explaining like what's going on. Right now, they have it here at the council meeting. People have this video accessible on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, and they're able to know. So just for my colleagues, thought process, know that this isn't for me, it's for the community. And having visuals like this are obviously very helpful, because sometimes I don't like, they're not doing anything. And I'm like, no, we're doing everything. It's just, it takes time, right? And this is the engineering portion of it. And later on, we'll have the construction portion of it and design or whatnot. And also because when I try to approve contracts for different vendors, I always ask for them to give something back to my constituents, whether it be a job, whether it be a scholarship, a food giveaway. And in this particular reason, we're not doing that, because there's a bigger goal to reach, right? Which is to make sure that this park gets moving, and so does the park, and not everything gets done. So that's why we're skipping that. So these are rhetorical questions. I know the answers. It's for the constituents. But again, thank you so much, Crystal, for your explanation. I really appreciate it. And to all parties involved through this. With that, I'd like to go ahead and approve amendments number 1.1, number 1.2, number 1.3, and number 1.4.
Councilmember, does that mean that you no longer need to discuss any of the items 8, 9, 10, 7, 3? Is this a motion to approve items 8, 9, 10, 7, and 3?
Yeah, it's 7, 8, 9, 3. No, it's 7, 8, 9, and 10.
I'll second that motion.
And does that mean that you still need to discuss item number 3?
Yes, that's a separate contract.
Okay, so then we have a second, and we'll take it to a roll call to approve items 8, 9, 10, and 7. And we have a motion by Councilmember Flores and a second by Councilmember Cortez. And the voting goes as this. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Thank you. Cortez?
Yes.
Thank you. Flores?
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Pulido?
Yes.
And yes for myself, so motion carries unanimously. Okay, item number 3, Councilmember Flores.
Yes, Mike, for item number 3, we're giving an agreement for 2 years to Terra Realty Advisors, which is a consulting group. Could you please explain what services are going to be provided?
Yes, Councilmember Flores. So Terra Realty Advisors is the consulting group that the city has used for electronic billboard consulting services. So I think you're all aware that there's a new large billboard in place over near Clara Street and the 710 freeway. There's a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes that it takes to get a billboard like that put up, working with multiple agencies, including Caltrans, the assessor's office. And so now that as that billboard is starting to reach its completion phase, we're looking at potentially another billboard opportunity that the city has that's on the city right of way. And so there's some significant level of effort in getting that right of way converted into a property. And then also going through the process of potentially installing another billboard that will have positive financial benefits to the city. So the recommendation is to continue using Terra Realty. They were successful in getting this first billboard done. It's a 2-year agreement. We will hope that this project would be completed sooner than that. That would be our goal for a not to exceed amount of $20,000. That'll be based on actual services provided. So the actual contract could result in some number less than 20,000. Any more than that, and we would come back to council.
And what would be the return of our investment on this particular item?
We just using rough numbers, we would anticipate if the second billboard would come to fruition, we could be looking at anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 per year that would come to the city's general fund.
Sounds like a great investment. All right, that was all for me. I just wanted to, again, reiterate the importance of being transparent and making sure that our residents are aware of the motions and approvals that we're having out here. With that, I'd like to go ahead and motion to approve the agreement between the city and Terra Realty Advisors.
All right, any seconds?
Second that motion, Cortez.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Flores, a second by Councilmember Cortez, and I'll take it to a roll call. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Cortez?
Yes.
Flores?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pulido?
Yes.
And yes for myself, so motion carries. So the entire consent calendar is approved, items 1 through 10, and now we're moving to our discussion. Discussion items 11 through 14. City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 11?
Thank you, Mayor Barcena. This item is a standing item. We've had the last couple meetings. There are a few commission vacancies. We wanted to leave this item on here available for any council members to appoint any members. There may not be any, but in the event that there are, this item is here and available.
Thank you. Do I have any motions to assign a member to this commissioner appointment list? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and move on to item number 12. City Manager, will you please announce this discussion item?
Thanks again, Mayor Barcena. This item is the result of a lot of work that's been done by staff and also by our consultant HF&H and also by our commercial waste haulers. You heard a couple items of public comment earlier on this item. We have a detailed presentation to go through for you, so I'll just be very brief. What staff is really looking for after you hear the presentation, go through it, the recommendation is to adopt the resolution that amends the current agreements with the current commercial solid waste haulers for 5-year term beginning January 1 of 2022 going through 2026. Also, and this is not a staff recommendation, but it's there for your consideration as a council to potentially provide a 5-year notice. The reason that this is included on it is just to ensure that the council is aware that of all the options that they have available to them. That 5-year notice, if it were so given, would allow the city council at that time in 5 years, so in 2026, to decide if they wanted to go with an exclusive franchise such as what the city has for residential trash hauling. If the council does not give the direction to this, the council can do this at any time in the future. So again, not a staff recommendation, but we definitely want to make sure that the council understands and has that option made available to them. With that, I'll turn it over to our Public Works Director and our consultant, Debbie Morris.
Thank you, Mike. You could hear me? Okay. Before I turn it over to Debbie Morris, I just wanted to introduce her formally. She is the city's solid waste consultant through the firm HF&H. She's been involved heavily with the compliance regulations that have been coming up through the years. I think going on probably, I think they've been the city's consultant for about 8 or 9 years now. So I've asked her to present this evening's item to the council for the discussion points as noted by our city manager. So with that, I will turn it over to Debbie. Hopefully she was successfully connected through the Zoom call. Debbie, are you on?
I am. I'm here. So will you be loading up the presentation, Griselle?
Yes, I will, and I'll take your prompt to go to the next item. To the next slide, I mean. Let me just give us a second, Debbie, while we load it.
Sure.
Thank
So just as a way of introduction, so like Griselle said, we've been the solid waste consultants for the city for many years now. And we were actually involved in the development of the model agreement, franchise agreement for SB 1383 and the model ordinances for 1383. The current non-exclusive agreement did expire, and that's what brings us to what we're going to discuss tonight about the amended and restated agreement. However, first I wanted to go over the biggest regulatory driver of amending the non-exclusive agreements, and that's SB 1383. And we have made previous presentations to council on SB 1383 and the requirements. So I just wanted to go over briefly just as a recap on that. So the main focus of SB 1383 was to minimize the methane gas that's emitted from different sectors. Landfills are one, dairies are another, and then there are a couple of other methane emitters that it targets. And so today we're going to be talking about how that affects your solid waste agreement and the amendments that we made to the non-exclusive solid waste agreement to address these factors. So Griselle, if you could go to the next slide, thank you. So the statewide goals for SB 1383 are to reduce black carbon by 50%, methane by 40%, and then HFC gases by 40%. So really the driver for this solid waste agreement is to address the methane that is caused by organics going to landfills. Okay, next slide, thank you. So these are the jurisdiction compliance requirements of SB 1383. And what we're going to discuss tonight is that one at the very top, the offer an organics collection program to all of the edible food generators. And edible food generators, this includes residential, commercial, anybody who generates any kind of organics, and food waste is included in that definition of organics for 1383. And then also inspection and enforcement of compliance and recover edible foods, educate generators, procure recovered organic waste products, and implementation of ordinance and policies. So next slide, please, Griselle. So a little bit of a background. Currently, the city maintains non-exclusive commercial solid waste agreements, which expire on December 31st, 2021, with 7 franchisees that are listed below. For residential collection, Athens Services provides these services under an exclusive agreement, which includes an evergreen automatic renewal clause. Public Works staff and HF&H, we held a virtual meeting with all of the current non-exclusive franchisees to review the SB 1383 compliant 5-year non-exclusive agreement. The reason we did that is that SB 1383 is so prescriptive on what kind of collection programs can be offered, where that material can be taken, what facilities the different types of materials can be taken, and how that material is processed. And it also includes extensive reporting requirements. So we incorporated all of those into your amended and restated non-exclusive agreement. And so we wanted to give the non-exclusive franchisees the opportunity for us to really go over all those new requirements in the agreement because they are significant. Next slide, please. So the non-exclusive agreement terms, the term is for 5 years. till December 31st, 2026. The franchise fees stayed the same as is in your current agreement. There is a provision to have them assist you in the food recovery assistance, which is required by 1383. And what the food recovery assistance really targets is that edible food that's going into landfills. And so there's a significant amount of edible food that's going into landfills. So what we want to do is make sure instead of that edible food being landfilled, that it's distributed to people in need. So we're not talking about, you know, as a resident, if you throw an apple in the garbage or anything like that. It's really targeting these large edible food generators, such as restaurants, grocery stores, bakeries, food manufacturers that are sending food that could be redistributed to people in need instead of it going to landfills. There is quite a lot of contamination monitoring. So SB 1383 really puts some requirements on what can go into what container and how the city has to report on any contamination levels. So in the agreement, we have included the contamination monitoring requirements of 1383 for the haulers to comply with. Expanded record keeping and reporting for SB 1383. It is a lot. And there is so much reporting that has to happen. So the haulers would be assisting in providing the required information to city staff. And the processing, transfer, and disposal services and facility standards. Again, these are very prescriptive in 1383, and we've outlined them in detail in the agreement. And then the collection system options, how these materials can be collected and how they can't be collected. Next slide, please. So there is the option for the issuance of a 5-year notice of termination. PRC code 49520 requires jurisdictions to provide a 5-year notice of termination to haulers that have provided service for more than 3 years, which all of your 7 haulers that are currently providing service in the city for the non-exclusive have been in the city for more than 3 years. The requirement does not include exclusive agreements because an exclusive agreement has a term end date in it. The issuance of the 5-year termination allows the city at the end of the 5-year term to continue with the non-exclusive commercial system, or the city is able to pursue an exclusive commercial agreement if the city does not want to if the city does not want to pursue an exclusive agreement, the 5-year notice need not be issued. So it's really giving you the option after that 5-year term. Whether the city wants to continue with the non-exclusive, which you certainly can, or go to an exclusive, go to an RFP for an exclusive agreement. Next slide, please. And recommendations: approve the commercial solid waste non-exclusive franchise agreements with a 5-year term beginning January 1, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2026. And as the city manager clarified, that it's not a recommendation of city staff to place a non-exclusive franchise on a notice of the city's intent to consider a modification of the current term. However, it's just giving the city council the option of doing that if you wish to. Next slide, please. So if you have any questions, I'm available to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Mayor. I do have, oh, I hear my echo. Mayor, you want to mute yourself? So I just wanted to give direction with regards to, and this is something that I want to look into, with regards to our business licenses, if there's a way for the city to be able to assist these haulers when it comes to the enforcement piece, as it relates to just different businesses that have to be compliant. It's something that I want to visit or maybe have a conversation with Rizal. Would that be you? So that's just direction for that. And then the other one is just, I want to make a motion to approve resolution number 2196.
All right, any other comments before we get a second for this motion? comments or questions?
I just have a comment. You know, our city is only 2.4 square miles, and it just seems like we have a lot of trash companies in our community. And I mean, I kind of seeked out a little advice from other people, just kind of seeing what they have in their cities. And I wasn't wrong. We do have excessive. I think the only one other city that has more than us is probably the city of LA. I don't have real connection to any of these trash companies. I've never actually, you know, really had a conversation with any of them. But at the same time, I feel like you said they've all been here longer than 3 years, right, Mrs.
Yes.
Morris? Do you know what's the longest they've been here? Which one's been here the longest?
Oh, gosh, I couldn't answer that. They were all here when I started working, except for Republic came on afterwards, but the other haulers have been there for years, years and years and years. Longer
Like
than
10, 15 years?
Oh, probably, yeah. We could, I don't know if we could even, the first agreements, I think, Griselle, do you remember when Veronica said the original agreement was done?
I believe it was, they've all been on, I think since at least 2010, I thought.
Yeah, at a minimum.
So yes, there was more haulers before and some dropped off. So I think there used to be 9 and now it's currently, they closed business. So now we're at 7.
I just don't know what our future looks like in the next 5 years, you know, and to keep these same haulers on board. I don't know, it just seems like it could potentially be counterproductive to the quality of life of our residents, having all of these companies at the same time in one small city, right? Whereas having maybe less than that, like half of that. I'm not saying maybe monopolizing it, but let's maybe just consider sending it, because who knows what happens in 5 years, right? I mean, I don't know. I'd like to hear from my colleagues if they have any other opinions other than going with the recommendation, or if they've seeked out, like, you know, any sort of advice.
I think I could go ahead and back up my motion. When it comes to having all these different trash haulers in our city, I believe in giving our businesses, and someone's not on mute. I believe in giving our different businesses the option to be able to contract with whichever commercial hauler they want. I haven't seen, or if staff could correct me if I'm wrong, any other problems, you know, with all these trash haulers being in our city, but I know that upon speaking to the residents, they enjoy the option of being able to negotiate their terms and conditions with these different trash haulers and going with what best fits their budgets and also their businesses. So that's why I'm supporting approving just item or recommendation number 1. It's about giving our community options and also about realizing that these are small trash haulers that also deserve an opportunity, and they've been good to our city for many years.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Any other comments or questions? If you guys can please mute your microphones if you're not using the microphone at the moment. All right, seeing no other comments or questions, I'm gonna go ahead and second that motion by Councilmember Cortez and take it to a roll call.
Barcelona, before we continue, Debbie, I have a question for you. How many of these haulers are unionized?
Oh, golly. Okay, let me look at the hauler list again quick. And we haven't researched this on all of them. I can tell you the ones that I do know, and I don't want the ones that I don't know to get mad at me. So Republic Services is, I know Waste Management is, Universal Waste, I'm not sure about. And I know that Matt's probably still on the line from AAA. I don't believe they are, but I don't know.
AAA is unionized.
AAA is unionized? Yeah. Okay. And then I don't know about Holloway Rubbish or Calmet.
Okay, I asked just because I know obviously this contributes to the labor, what our employees in our city, or I'm sorry, what the contractors in our city are getting paid, right? We also want to make sure that we are helping those who are giving a livable wage. So that's my question. And the second one is, again,
I'm sorry, Athens is not a union shop. Just so I wanted to clarify that since I was pointing out everybody else who was and wasn't.
Okay. And then just, I understand our community members wanting and having the opportunity to, choose from their who they want to work with. And I think that's great. Every business owner should choose who they want to work with. However, we should, as a body, we should consider that there is traffic and pollution that comes with these huge trucks. We're already adjacent to the 710 freeway, and there's a lot of truckers that are passing by. And if we continue to bring more truckers, I just feel like, two trucks at the same time could be servicing in opposite sides of the city, and it's kind of harmful to our community members. But I mean, it seems like everything's already set up, so I'm gonna just go ahead and let my colleagues take the votes that they need to take.
And also CalMet was also unionized.
Thank you.
Mayor Barcelona, comment?
Please go ahead, Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you for that. Quick question to city admin, Mike and Grisel. Whatever decision we make tonight, let's just say we don't want to move forward with potentially serving them a non-exclusive franchising notice at the moment, we could always just change our minds later down the line, correct?
Correct. Yes, council can always request the item be brought forward to issue a 5-year notice at that time, and then that would then extend the ending term to 5 years from that point.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so at that point, you'd have to, whenever you determine you're going to issue the 5-year notice, then we would have to extend the non-exclusive agreements to match that 5-year notice. And like I said, I mean, issuing the 5-year notice doesn't mean that you have to change your collection system at that point from non-exclusive to exclusive. It only just gives you the option to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so then I'm gonna go ahead and take it to a roll call. We have a motion by Councilmember Cortez, second by myself here. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Thank you. Cortez?
Yes.
Flores?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pulido?
Just to double check, the motion is to adopt the rest of, so staff's recommendation number 1, but not number 2, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so yes.
Okay, and it's a yes for myself, so motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We're now moving forward to item number 13. City Manager, will you please announce this item?
Thanks again, Mayor Barcena. This item was requested more from a physical perspective, actually taking a tour. But when we started being concerned with the rain and that, we thought we'd at least bring a presentation to give the council an update on all the work that's been done at the community garden. And we can certainly do in-person tours into the future as well too, but we wanted to give you a presentation now. I'll turn it over to Rosanna Danto, Director of Recreation Community Services. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Barcena and City Council. The report before you today is a quick overview of our the Bell Gardens Community Center, which is a great asset to the community. Since 1996, when the county transferred ownership of John Anson Ford Park, it also came with the community garden. And so since then, the city has been operating it. Next slide, please. The garden is comprised of 72 plots. The map is not to scale, but it gives you an idea of just how many plots we have. There are various sizes, small, large, and extra large. And most recently, we've assigned a couple of community groups plots. So for instance, the Girl Scout Troop 2543 and the Bell Gardens High School Gardening Club will be occupying 2 of the plots, as well as the Community Services Department, the Senior Center, and the STAR program will be operating plots. The plots range in size from 400 square feet, 400 to 600, which is considered a small plot. Large is 615 to 750, and extra large is 800 to 1200 square feet. And we charge a minimal rate for small plots of $30 per year, $35 for large plots, and $40 for extra large. And seniors receive a $5 discount. Next slide. Over the years, we've had a waiting list of well, it's gone on. I've been told it's in double digits. We currently have 10 families that are on a waiting list. 4 have been contacted in the last 2 weeks. We're trying to verify one more plot of someone who has, we believe, passed away, and we're not sure, but we're still trying to make contact. Over the last 6 months, the Recreation and Community Services Department, the Public Works Department have made a number of improvements. First improvement is you can see the water line that was installed back in August. The water line finished. There were only two bibs that supported this entire garden. There are now 42 bibs that have supplied the water. Next slide. Public Works has broken down the old concrete and replaced the new concrete. So you can see the work that was done by our Public Works Department. Next slide, please. Also, our Public Works Department assisted us by constructing the new tables, benches, all that had been placed at the garden. We also exchanged out the restroom facility, which is now an ADA compliant restroom facility. Next slide. As you can see, the new tables and the umbrellas so that there's a seating area for the gardeners. Next slide. Here are a few of our gardeners, some of the crops that they're growing. They enjoy the tables. They eat their lunch, snack. All of these improvements cost approximately $68,000. Next slide. Oops. One more slide. Oh, okay. So the last slide was of the Girl Scouts who were gardening. Don't know what happened to that. Are there any questions? Again, the Bell Gardens Community Garden is a vital part of the community. And because of high density in the city, it's an area where our residents use to grow fruits and vegetables, and it affords them to grow healthy produce.
Thank you, Director Rosanna Danto. At this point, I want to refer to my colleagues to see if there are any questions or comments in regards to this report. And if there is,
Mayor Barson?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for, if I may.
Please.
Thank you. Quick question, Roseanne, Director Roseanne and Mike, has there been any conversation of potentially getting like a canopy at our community garden, like a big canopy that can cover, probably add some shade for some of the exposed tables that are out there? I did see some umbrellas, but I know that we have quite a big block of concrete where we do have some of the new brown benches and chairs set up. Has there been discussion of potentially getting a canopy there?
All of the tables at this point have umbrellas, temporary umbrellas. A canopy would be a temporary solution. Sometimes you have to deal with wind elements and for something that is not a permanent structure. So it could be a little bit problematic, but we have not had any discussions in reference to a full canopy. The gardeners, you know, they're out there for short periods of times, not long periods of times, though. I know staff has had multiple conversations with the gardeners, And if there was to be, say, a special event, they wanted to host something, staff could definitely place some temporary canopies out there, some larger ones, a 20 by 20 for a specific event. But we feel that having the umbrellas at the tables supplies enough shade on a temporary basis.
Okay, sounds good. I don't know what those are called. Not necessarily a canopy, but they're like the more metal, more we have one in Ford Park, and it's right under the restrooms, located right next to where the pool is. It's like it has light. I don't know what those are called, but I was referring to something like that, more structure.
Like a picnic brazier of some
Yes.
sort.
Yes.
Yeah, if there was something placed there that's a permanent structure, then it would, obviously it would be anchored into the ground, set in concrete. We have not had any discussions. We've had some discussions in reference to placing a portable, not portable, a prefabricated restroom facility, so that the restrooms are not, it's not an ADA compliant type of outhouse. So now that we have a water line, it's just a matter of placing a sewer line, and we can get something a little bit more permanent. But the fact that no improvements had been made for several years, and the water improvement has been tremendous. We've consulted a master gardener. I failed to mention that, and the master gardener advised us to keep 2 of the plots as pollination stations, so to grow flowers in there to attract more bees, so that the bees would pollinate some of the other crops. And so we've kind of taken a lesson from that, and we're learning, staff is learning a little bit more about gardening, but we're hoping that the gardeners will see an improvement in their crops, and more sustainability for food.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, I really appreciate all the improvement that's been made to the community garden. I'm glad to hear that our gardeners like the new improvements that we made all across the garden. I would encourage all my colleagues, if they have a chance, to check it out and see it. I hope that in the future, maybe we could host or have some type of events at our community garden. Make sure we have the community come out, similar to how we're doing for the aquatic center, which is huge, phenomenal, and I'm glad to see that. But seeing as all this improvement that's happening in Ford Park, it's the Ford Park, and then we have the adult school, and then the community garden. It's really hidden, but potentially having some sort of ceremonial events at a community garden, maybe a farmer's market at the community garden, right? So that'd be great. We have our fruits and vegetables growing right there, and our farmers are right there too. So again, really glad. Thank you so much for the presentation. I think they were called gazebos. I don't know.
Gazebos.
Gazebo, sorry that I'm over here.
Gazebos, they're the Girl Scouts on their first day of gardening. I just wanted to share that. So
again, thank you so much.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to receive and file.
I'll go ahead and
Second that.
second that motion.
Okay, second by Councilmember Cortez, and we'll take it to a roll call. Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Cortez,
Yes, and thank you for including that picture of the Girl Scouts.
Flores,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pulido,
Yes.
and yes for myself. So motion to receive and file passes. And now moving on to item number 14, noise music ordinance presentation. City Manager, can you please cover this item?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor Barcena. So this item was a request from council about 2 meetings back. And it's been an issue, I think, the whole time I've been here, an issue that we've been dealing with. So the purpose of the presentation is really to talk about what's already in place in the municipal code regarding noise music ordinance. Talk about it from a police perspective, also from a community development perspective, what's been done in the past, what's currently being done. And then I think what we're looking for is to have a conversation at that point that may lead into future direction as well. So I will turn it over to, I believe Lieutenant Camacho from the police department is going to lead off with the presentation. And then when he's done, he's going to turn it over to Gus Romo, the Director of Community Services, Community Development. Sorry about that.
Actually, Mr. City Manager, I'm going to just kind of give a little synopsis of what's been taking place over the last couple of weeks, if that's okay.
Sounds good, Chief. Thanks.
Based on direction from council and conversations here in the chambers, over several years, we've kind of gone away from what our municipal code was due to for multiple reasons, but we were asked at a few council meetings back to kind of revert back to what we were doing at that point in time. So what we started to do is we reinstituted the policy of where we gave notifications when we were out on music calls for service when applicable. We re-implemented that last, I think it was on the 16th. So from the 16th to Sunday evening, we had a total of 26 music calls for service that were responded to. Of those, we issued numerous cites, I believe around 10 to 13 cites, not cites, notifications, where we leave the resident with a notification. We try to figure out who the owner is of the property or who's in charge of the property, and leave them a notice and letting them know what's going to happen if we have to respond back out there. Of the other calls for service, either we were unable to locate the music due to poor location given on maybe a RP who doesn't want to get involved. I'm sorry, reporting party who doesn't want to get involved, and we'll say, you know, it's 2 houses behind me, I live on this street, and we'll go out and look and unable to locate. Or due to another call for service, we may have been out at the location and had to clear. Or as we arrived, they turned off the music and it wasn't a party or anything like that. They just shut off the music. So that's kind of where we are. I asked Lieutenant Camacho to go ahead and lead this presentation and to gather the information. So Lieutenant Camacho.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you for having me here tonight. So my goal tonight is to kind of give you guys a historical background on chapters 16.24, 16.25, and 1.16. In addition to that, I also did some research on how we process the citations and pretty much, you know, what works and what doesn't work. So I'll begin with, on June 22nd of 2009, City Council adopted Ordinance 817 to address the following issues: complaints of loud music and/or party services. These calls accounted for about 30% of the total cost for service in a 6-month period. Many of these calls were from the same location within a 24-hour period. These calls were generated by residents. Now, it's important to note that at that time, BGMC sections 16.24.010 through 16.24 through 0.640 under chapter 16.24 was really, it gave you an explanation and it defined what music, and it defined how to enforce it, and it talked about decibels, and talked about feet. So it gave you a good foundation on the definitions. Now, one of the things that we did have in that section was BGMC 16.24.050 that addressed loud music and noise from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Now, that was one of the tools that the Bell Gardens Police Department had in order to enforce this. Now, at that time, we also had the officers were giving out citations. And I'll talk a little bit later about the only enforcement that we had at the time was a citation. It was an infraction, and it was a fine at the end of the day. So any complaints outside of this time frame require a resident to get involved, which at times
many of them don't. They just make the call and they expect the police department to go out there and take care of the matter. Without the aid of the resident, officers were not able to issue the citation because that's just the way it was defined and it was explained under that section. So officers often return to multiple locations and were unable to really shut down the music or really do anything if it wasn't covered between that 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. So one of the things that City Council did is they provided ordinance number 187, which added chapters 25 of Title 16 of the BGMC for the cost recovery of the police services at large parties and enforcement. But it also gave us pretty much an explanation of how we were going to be able to enforce that and how we were going to be able to go to the locations and provide this new form that we created. So what it did, it describes the methods of handling these types of calls for service. It provides officers with the ability to issue the notice of loud music and party violation form. The ordinance also describes the process of generating, issuing, and processing the loud music and party violation form. So more or less, it gave the residents a warning on the first response. The police department was being dispatched to that location regarding loud music or party. Second, within a 24-hour, it resulted in a fine. So if I went out on the second, now you were going to get an actual citation. Well, I'll call it more of a civil infraction because it's really a fine at the end of the day for $75. Now, the max that we could do at that time was 300, and it still stays the same for today. 16.25.0110 pretty much gave us the authority to collect for this type of form that we were filling out. And so the way it worked is that we would generate the citation or the form, and the copies of the paperwork would be handed to finance. Finance would collect the fees within a 30-day period. And if they went on a non-payment, pretty much, and nobody wanted to pay their fine, that we go after them through the LA Recorder's Office. So this is the current form that we're currently using. And it's pretty easy. I mean, it kind of lays out everything that we need, because one of the things that the police department has to establish if there's actually loud music, a party, and establish the facts of what the reporting party is calling for. So the officer pretty much fills this out, and here on the first response, it just kind of gives an explanation that this is just a warning. Now we have to come back a second time, a third and fourth, and you'll be charged and you'll be fined $75. Now, here's some of the stats that I was able to gather. 6 months from May 10th of this year to October of this year, we had 420 calls for service that were either labeled music, either a noise, or a party call. Now, within a year, we took it from October of last year to October of this year, we had 981 calls. Now, one of the things that we need to keep in mind is that our current section 16.24.340, it lays down that everything that we do under this section, it's only an infraction. And so what I'm trying to say here now is a comparison of what we currently have on the books and what other cities that I looked into that actually go after some of these type of calls on a misdemeanor section. So there's a difference, and there's a big difference. For example, an infraction is the least serious offense. Infractions do not lead to jail time, probation, or create a criminal record. The punishment for an infraction is just a fine, monetary. Avoids the court system, no judge, no possible probation order from the court system. And then what we did also is we added chapter 1.16, which gives us the rights to go administrative more of a civil type of procedure. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. They're gonna pay with the fine. Now, when I looked at other cities currently use a misdemeanor section that allows this. A misdemeanor is more serious than an infraction. If you are charged with a misdemeanor, it would create a criminal record. Misdemeanors can carry different punishments depending upon the seriousness of the offense. Generally, misdemeanors can carry up to 1 year jail sentence as well as a fine. Because of the misdemeanor section, when you're looking at jail time, you will see a judge. Misdemeanors create a formal court process and a deterrence and possibly probation. So currently, what we have at the Bell Gardens Police Department is this. This is the way it works. If a resident calls in to complain or concerned about loud music, about a party, they call our dispatch center. Our dispatchers then generate the call. 2 officers are assigned to the call for service. Officers determine if a violation is present or maybe with enough information if it's occurred or it did occur. Now this is important because when the reporting party makes the call, that it's up to the officers once they get on scene to establish if they have the actual elements of that section. For example, can they hear the music? Well, how many feet is it away? Can they establish all that so they can put it in their report? Officers can also issue a citation instead of the form, but at the end of the day, it's still an infraction. So what we do is we tend to use the form more than the actual citation. The police department's records department pretty much finalizes the paperwork and they forward that to the finance department, who then puts together the packet and goes after whoever the individual was listed on the form. Now, the pitfalls of the current system are this. Most of the police department's form only reach the first response level. Fines that reach a violation level usually are not collected because in doing the research, I found out that if your name is listed on the form, then we have to verify before the paperwork actually goes through the entire process. And one of those steps is to verify through a vendor that we use and charges $50 to verify that that individual is either the homeowner or has a contract with that property. So at the end of the day, you're spending about it could be anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. The current infraction system doesn't deter people from violating the VGMC section because it's only a fine, and some of them don't even pay the fine. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the police department had no physical contact because we were following the CDC guidelines with pretty much not having any contact. So everything that we were doing with enforcement was a verbal warning. The PD is now enforcing the sections and is issuing the notice of loud music and party violation form. And the next section is going to be done by us, and it's going to talk a little bit more about the actual business section. My presentation was only focused on residential, on the residential section. So at this time, if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer those questions.
I have a question. When you guys say you handle only residential, does that mean that you don't, if you receive a noise complaint from a business per se, does that mean that you don't have any communication with them? You're not gonna go and tell them to lower the music?
Like a business?
Yeah.
Or just then, yeah, we're gonna do that. But
Oh, okay.
Gus is gonna talk a little bit more about the actual regulation of that section.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mayor and council members, the main difference with the community development department and the police department when it comes to noise enforcement is that the community development department focuses on things during the day when we're here. whereas the police department typically will get calls after hours and on the weekends. So when we look at chapter 16.24 and we get a noise complaint, we'll go ahead and go out there with our decibel reader to substantiate the complaint. And what a lot of times people don't realize is that somebody could be making noise during the day that's actually within the decibels that are allowed by the city's code. And that's identified, all these things here, when you see radios, televisions, vehicles, sidewalk vendors, peddlers, drums, anything like this could actually be within the noise readings. So ultimately we go to, let me see if this is working. Oh, is it here? Okay. Okay, we go to the general plan because the general plan is the one that identifies the acoustical scale and noise compatibility chart that we go by. And this is what you hear. So ultimately, when you see the thresholds of various noises, it goes down to thresholds of hearing that are insignificant, all the way up to lethal. And so when the city's noise compatibility chart is looked at, we identify residential noise, and then we also identify those that are allowed within industrial manufacturing at the very end where you see that. And of course, the industrial businesses are the ones that are typically making the most noise, but that's kept within during the daytime hours. So they identify what's acceptable and what's not. So when you go on that chart, noise compatibility chart, from left to right, you'll see where it becomes unacceptable. The decibels rise. And so, for instance, if we get a call from someone that's complaining about an auto repair shop that's making too much noise, we'll go out there, we'll do the decibel reading from the certain distance where the residential might be at. And we might find that, oh, it's within that noise measurement. So they're not in violation. However, if they're beyond that noise measurement during that time of day, then we'll go ahead and issue a notice of violation. Now, one thing to keep in mind, even though we have an administrative citation ordinance, the city for its community development department, we still don't have citation amounts that we can charge. However, we can call police and police can then issue the citation. I'm hoping that sometime in the future, you will adopt a new fee resolution that we can place those citations in so that we can also assess fines. So all in all, one thing that we have to keep in mind too is that for commercial and industrial uses, we have land use entitlements. So there's certain approvals that are given to businesses, like conditional use permits, for instance. And those entitlements will include conditions that regulate the noise. So if there's an auto repair shop that comes in or a restaurant with entertainment, they'll know by their conditional use permit that's approved by the Planning Commission what hours of operation they can operate and where the noise levels need to be. So earlier you heard from someone that identified a restaurant that was getting complaints about noise. Regardless of those complaints, even if no complaints come in, but staff substantiates that there's a noise problem, we can identify the conditional use permit and say, look, you're in violation of your CUP. And we have the ability to then ask for revocation proceedings to occur. That means if somebody is not complying by their conditions of the conditional use permit, the city has the right to revoke that conditional use permit. So you go through a set of hearings to do that. Of course, you also give them the opportunity to comply. So that's the bigger difference between the residential and the commercial. On the residential side, of course, we So as I was saying, with the conditional use permit, you have that ability to go after and have the business owner comply. With residents, we also have that ability to have them comply, as long as it's during the business or during the daytime hours. If it's after hours, like I said, we ask the police department to come in. So if there's any other questions, here to answer.
Yes, I do have not so much a question, but I just want to say thank you to the police department for providing that data. I think it's very helpful. You know, if 30% of all of the calls that were coming in back in, was it 2009 when that survey was done, or was that an ongoing data collection effort? That's a recent. Okay, so just knowing that 30% of those calls involve noise violations or noise, not per se violations, but at the very least, noise complaints coming from our residents. We know that it's a serious topic. We know that it's a serious issue. One of my concerns and the reason why we're here right now is just the fact that it's been so long since we put the city code or enforce the city code, right? I think one of the things that we can take home today is that the police department is not enforcing our current code, meaning that the laws that are in place are not being enforced, basically. And I know there have been challenges, and I know that there are reasons behind it, and I appreciate the police department communicating those to us. But I do feel that the residents deserve better, and I think that I would like to see what we can do to make it easier for the police department to do their job and enforce our code. And if our code is no longer appropriate, to update the code. I would like to take the recommendation from our Director of Community Development to come up with a new fee resolution. Perhaps that's one of the ways that we can alleviate this problem. If we're losing money in the process of enforcing our code, that might be a problem, as the police department indicated. So maybe that will be a good reason to look into coming up with a new fee resolution. So just want to thank you guys for putting all these options up here and informing the council on it. I know that this is only a receive and file item, but I'll open it up to the rest of the council for any comments or questions.
Mayor, before you do that, if I could make a point of information. As a point of information, we are in the process of recruiting for a combination code enforcement building inspector who will be available weekend hours from Thursday through Sunday. So that should be able to help out with PD as well. But keeping in mind that our code enforcement officers do concentrate on code enforcement issues having to do with the zoning code primarily, but that includes also the noise ordinance. So we can definitely help out in that manner. Where I know with the police department, they have sometimes a lot of more significant issues that come in where maybe the noise complaint doesn't take priority. So sometimes that's why there's a reason for the call to take a little bit longer because it is on a priority status of emergency. So we completely understand that, but we are here to help in any way we can.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that. And again, any comments or questions from the council?
I have a direction. I know we did have a business call in, and I'm wondering if staff can please meet with this business and just report back to council with regards to what the outcome of this meeting was, how we can, review their conditional use permits, see if they're within the hours. And also hopefully this recruitment will help with like the decibel readings as well to see if our residents are being affected by the noise. But I do want staff to engage in a conversation and then report back.
Thank you. So I want to just, I'm not sure if that was a motion, but I'll go ahead and provide my support for staff to carry that out if possible.
Mayor Barcena?
Go ahead, please.
Thank you for that. Quick question, and this goes to Director Gus Romo. I've had a couple of residents approach me in regards to the vehicles that pass by and sell food and whatnot, like ice cream trucks. And to my notice, to my knowledge, and I looked up, tried to find in the code, as these trucks are passing by, once they officially stop, like once the ice cream truck officially comes to a stop, are they supposed to turn off their music? And if so, if they don't turn off their music, what are potential ramifications or what do residents do about it? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question, Councilmember Chavez. Ultimately, you are correct where you're saying when trucks are moving, the ice cream trucks are moving, they can have their sound on. The minute they stop, at that point, they have to turn down their music. They can have it to a minimal level, but they can't have it at the same level as they're going. And the code clearly states that it's got to be mobile in order for the sound to be on. When that does happen, I would recommend that the person that is hearing the truck while they're stopped, that they call code enforcement. If it's after hours, unfortunately, it has to be something that the police department can identify at that time. They have to witness it. Same thing with staff from code enforcement. We have to be able to witness it. We can't just take the complaining's word that yes, it did happen. But you are correct that that noise does have to stop when they're stopped.
So in a case where the act is happening in the moment, by the time, let's just say it's after hours, they call PD. PD's constantly trying to chase the radio. By the time PD gets to that call or that service call, the ice cream truck will left for the day. They'll continue. It's a constant thing where they continually do it. What are potential actions or parameters that the city can do? Maybe I was thinking potentially sending out a letter just reminding these businesses, right,
Yes.
that are contracting with us. I mean, that are selling ice cream or any other type of mobile vendors.
We can definitely do that, sir.
Yes.
In fact, I know there was a time where we had the ice cream vendors that were at the parks while events were taking place and they were stationary there. So the department staff went ahead and sent out a letter to all our licensed vendors. Unfortunately, sometimes there's vendors that come in that aren't licensed, but they hear about the event, so they come from another city. At that point, we have to catch them in the moment, but we can't send them a letter because we don't know who they are. But absolutely, we can send out another letter warning them about this particular code section. And we'll go ahead and do that, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And
I just wanted to make a comment before this ends. I just want to thank our police department for doing what they can with the tools that have been given to them. Our restaurant industry has been extremely hurt by this year's pandemic. I mean, we lost many lives, and people lost their staff, and I mean, it was a loss for everyone, right? And so I can't help but feel like it's a bit counterproductive to want to enforce music, when our restaurants are just doing what they can to stay afloat. And I don't mean that they shouldn't follow, the rules. They should. Everybody should. Nobody's above the law. But still, I think perhaps if someone feels targeted, like they called in our meeting and said that, I think we should listen, and I'm sorry that you guys are being so harshly criticized. I don't agree. I usually say what I feel. I always do, and what I see, and I don't see that you guys are not responding or enforcing. I say you guys are doing what you can, and that there's priorities that are elsewhere, right? Maybe it's not an ice cream truck or a restaurant, it's other stuff. So to the listeners, I know that it's difficult in this day and time with inflation now, arriving at our gas stations, and we're all trying to do what we can to survive. And there's not a livable wage out there sometimes. And so I'm sorry if this conversation may be offensive to some. And yeah, I don't know. This is a tough place to be at. And I hope that, we can come to a place where we can take care of those just trying to make a living, and not having to attack those that are also trying to just do their job.
thank you for your comment, Councilmember Flores. Before I move to receive and file, I want to make sure that people know that Bell Gardens, living in this community, growing up in this community, I've always encountered very reasonable people. When the complaints come in, when people call me, when they message me late at night, it's very unusually about a complaint that's minor. So, we're okay with quinceañeras, we're okay with birthday parties that end before midnight. I don't think anyone I know has called me about a quinceañera going on at like 11:30 p.m. or something like that. we have good people, we have reasonable people. So I'm concerned about noise violations that are happening, you know, on weekends, on a Sunday night, maybe throughout the week, past 1 a.m. Those are the things that I know as a son of a working class family that are extremely important for us to stand up and address this issue, because we have working families out there that need to be up by 4 a.m., 5 a.m. And if we have a party going on at 2 a.m., if we have music blasting at 1 a.m., how many hours of sleep is that? And how are we making sure that our community has a decent living arrangement here in the city of Bell Gardens? A lot of people think that because we're lower income, because we're 30% below the poverty line, that we have to put up with this substandard living arrangement where we have music blasting in our ears on the weekends, on a Sunday night, during the week. We don't have to put up with that. We have to stand up for what is right. And more than anything, we have to know who we're working for, right? Yes, we want our businesses to thrive, of course. No one is going to complain about a business having party, even outdoors at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9, 10, even 11. I don't know anyone that's that unreasonable. So it is our duty not only to make sure that we're being fair, but to protect those that are most vulnerable in our communities, the working class that needs to be up very early in the morning to provide for their family, who lives in an overcrowded city that is 30% below poverty rate. So let's not kid ourselves. Let's not pretend like we don't have a job to do. We do. And sometimes it's not going to be pretty. Sometimes it's going to be challenging and controversial, but we have to be as fair as possible. So I appreciate everyone's consideration of this topic. I want to make a motion to bring this item back as soon as possible with the recommendation of coming with a new fee resolution, because it seems like it's been identified by our police department and our community development department that this will make it easier to enforce some of these, some of the code in our city. So that is my motion, and thank you for the report.
I'll go ahead and second that.
All right, I'll take it to a roll call. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Thank you. Cortez?
Yes.
Flores?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Pulido?
Yes.
And just for myself, so motion carries. Thank you.
Mayor Barcena, if I may.
Please go ahead.
Thank you for that. I do just want to also add one more point in regards to, you know, as you were mentioning, the working class in our community, right? Below 30% poverty line and whatnot. And I mean, I know I mentioned the ice cream trucks, and I know it's not, for some folks, it might seem it's a little too much, but I mean, when you're trying to take a class, right? I could imagine how it could be difficult to sometimes focus. Also, not to mention a lot of our residents perhaps working remotely, right? And trying to be in a meeting and whatnot, that could also be difficult to focus as well. So, I mean, I totally understand it, and I'm glad to see that we're taking action on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chavez. And in regards to the ice cream trucks, believe it or not, this has been an issue that has been brought to my attention in the past too. So I'm glad that you have the courage. Obviously, no one wants to say, hey, I'm complaining about an ice cream truck. You know, usually when you hear an ice cream truck, you're just like joyous and you want to like go and have some ice cream. But the truth of the matter is that sometimes if it's too loud, you know, and it's for a prolonged period of time, it could become an issue. And I think that's what you're hearing from the residents. That's what I've heard from the residents. And we just have to make sure, like I said, that we're being fair to everyone. Maybe it's just a communication issue. Maybe we just have to send out a letter like our director said. And that's totally fine. You know, that's what we're here to do as a city, to establish that communication and make sure that we're following our city code. And so thanks again for that. And now we're gonna move on to public participation on non-agenda items. City Clerk, are there any speakers?
There are no written comments. We will now open the lines to anyone wishing to speak. The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items not listed on the City Council meeting agenda. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the mayor and council members. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by pressing *9 when instructed. Press *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom. Looks like we have a speaker requesting to speak. We're going to go ahead and start with Louis. Host, can we go ahead and let Louis in?
Thank you very much. My name is Louis Raprager. For the record, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, esteemed members of council. My name is Louis Raprager. I'm a Navy veteran. I served between 1999 and 2003. I'm coming to you today to present a mural project that I have that raises awareness of deported veterans. And I know that your city has a large community of veterans and I also a Latinx community. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention and I hope that you'll be able to put up my mural in your city. And thank you for your time.
City Clerk, can we collect information for Mr. Lewis so we could get back to him at a later time?
Yes. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Mayor, doesn't look like there's any more individuals wishing to speak at this time.
Okay, thank you, City Clerk. If there's no objection by the City Council, I will close public participation and we will now move to council comments, starting with Councilmember Chavez.
All right, thank you again. Appreciate that. So I think I do have quite a few announcements. So I go ahead and apologize ahead of time that this is probably going to be more than 6 minutes. So I'll make it quick. I'll try to make it quick. So rainy day today. Hope everyone is safe and is driving safe. Today we had a dump truck turn over on the side, creating hazard down Florence Place. I'm curious to know if everyone's okay. I saw it happened maybe around noonish. I don't know if I haven't got any update. I'm curious to know if everything's okay and if the street's back open.
Street is back open and no injuries. The street was closed down for an extended period of time due to leakage from the truck. However, Public Works did a great job in coming out and developing a plan to keep it out of our waterways. And the delay was waiting for fire hazmat to come and assist. By the time they got there, they were satisfied with the work that Public Works did and the officers did at the time. And the roads are back open.
Thank you so much for that, Chief. Thank you so much, Grisel, Director Grisel, and your team for being strategic on tackling this. And I'm glad to hear that everyone is safe. So with that, I mean, I hope that everyone please drive safe and is courteous to others, especially on rainy days. It seems like people here in our county or all of SoCal pretty much they forgot how to drive when it rains here. So everything is flooded. So just be courteous to one another. So since our last meeting, there's been a lot that has occurred. For one, I've gotten to participate in a couple of the neighborhood watch meetings. I've gotten to hear directly from our residents about crime occurring on their street or section of the city. On the topic of neighborhood watch, I look forward to our first meeting with Mayor Pro Tem Pulido and myself, as we are both on the neighborhood watch ad hoc committee, and look to overall evaluating the program and potential reforms. I also had the pleasure of attending the movie showing of Beetlejuice this last weekend on Friday at our Veterans Park. It was an awesome movie, and our residents really enjoyed it, especially the kids. They thought that it was a new movie that had just came out when it came out back in the 80s. So it brought back memories of summer movies and concerts, which I really, really missed. So overall, I'm glad to see that we had a really good turnout. And also a huge shout out to Always Poppin'. They gave out free popcorn to our residents. They're a new business here in the city. They're originally from Commerce. but they're very close and have roots here in BG. The person who does this, that owns this business, graduated from Bell Gardens High School. And I'm glad to see that she moved here to Bell Gardens, is establishing her business here. So huge shout out to her. She gave out free samples, a lot of popcorn, caramel popcorn, drizzle popcorn, you name it. So always popping. That's the name of their business. This last Saturday, I had the pleasure of attending 2 events. The first was Unión de Vecinas potluck at Veterans Park with our renters in regards to the constant push that they're doing with rent control in our community, and the stories that they each share with their own experience as renters. Quick question on regards to the renters. The rent control ordinance is, do we already have a date for a workshop that's going to be set?
Right now, Councilmember Chavez, we're working on 2 dates. We're making sure that the panelists are available for those. So tentatively, we're looking at the week of November 15th and also the week of December 6th. But just keep in mind, we also have the fair housing workshops that are this Wednesday at 4 to 7 p.m. at Ross Hall, and also November 9th, 4 to 7 p.m. at Ross Hall.
Thank you so much for that. And I believe those are from 4 to 7.
4 to 7 p.m. Yes, sir.
Awesome. All right. I'm glad to hear that we already have an idea of when we want to host those workshops for our community to see. Later that day, I had the pleasure of attending Art in the Park at Marlowe Park. I'm glad to see that most of my colleagues were all there. Councilmember Cortez, Mayor Barcena, and Mayor Pro Tem Polito were there. And we got to see the future residents of our city, literally the youth, the future right before our eyes, designing a mural, or potentially jotting down some ideas for a mural on Marlowe Park. Huge shout out to Tony, who used to be with the Parks and Rec staff. It is now a teacher, and he's the artist designing this mural at our Marlowe Park. Following that, last week, a week ago today, I had the pleasure of attending the Port of Long Beach on a harbor tour. I got to see the backup ships across the Pacific Ocean. Those big container ships, there's about, the ones that has a bunch of, it almost seems like Legos, but they're all containers from different kinds of colors and whatnot. There's about 70 to 80 of those container ships all across the Pacific Ocean. And they're just pretty much lined up across for the Port of Long Beach and the Port of LA. I got invited to participate in this tour through the 710 ad hoc committee through the Gateway Cities COG. And the tour was good. It was very windy and interesting. Now, the reason this is important to our city is because we have the 710 freeway. We share the 710 freeway. And all the cargo that is waiting in queue for transportation will most likely pass through our city, like the other CELA cities. Now, our next 710 ad hoc committee meeting will occur next Monday. And I'll be sure to keep you all updated in terms of what discussions we'll have. But for sure, what I'm concerned about, or what I'm looking at, is potentially within these next couple of weeks, months, or the holiday season overall, how bad is our air quality potentially going to get? And when we talk about air quality, we're not just talking about the particulates, that exhaust fumes, but we're also talking about tire dust. We're talking about brake dust and other factors. So we have our next meeting on Monday. On a lighter note, I got to give a tour to Kelly Johnson, who's part of Good Veg. She's a nonprofit that is dedicated to bringing farmers markets to cities. I've actually had a chance to sit down with Mike, our city manager, and discuss a little bit about farmers markets here in our city. And we potentially have tried to aim this for the next year, hopefully by the end of January, early February or so. The reason is because we have to pay for permits for the Department of Agriculture for the state to be able to host these type of event here in our city. And it's a one-time fee per year. So it wouldn't make sense for us to submit applications for this year when there's only 2 months left. So might as well just begin next year. So finally, I hope everyone has a safe Halloween if you celebrate it. I am doing a Halloween decoration contest of your home or apartment or wherever you live. So you can go ahead and just shoot me a picture of your home through my social media, which is just my name, and Jorge Chavez. And I will be giving out, raffling off some gift cards. The 3 categories for the houses are most decorative, most creative, and most scariest. So make sure you submit your houses by Friday, October 29th. And finally, Halloween Day, have a carnival at Veterans Park between 4 to 7. And the following day, we have our Dia de los Muertos events at Veterans Park between 5:30 to 9. And those are pretty much all the events. Briefly, to all those interested in attending, our city will be hosting an LGBTQ Pride Picnic in partnership with Love BG and the Latino Equality Alliance. The event scheduled for November 6th between 11 and 4, and I'm glad to see that our city is doing a Pride Picnic. I saw Downey do one, so I'm glad to see that BG is doing one too. So with that said, thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Chavez. Councilmember Cortez.
I just want to thank all of our staff for all their contributions to our city, everything that they do every single day. And with that, everyone have a good night.
Thank you, Councilmember Flores.
All right, thank you. Hello, everybody. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening. I just wanted to give one last congratulations to all of the recipients of our check for the Cal Home Grant. Again, this is a huge opportunity. It's free money, Bell Gardens residents. It's free money for you, and there's still a lot of money left over. So if you're watching this and you rent and you don't know if you qualify for a home, I urge you to please contact our city and see if you can, get this assistance. Again, it's free money and it's for you guys, so please take advantage of that. I also wanted to just touch real quick on the U.S. veteran that called. He's here supporting the U.S. veterans and how these veterans feel abandoned by the country that they served. We have veterans that served 1 or 2 tours in Afghanistan or Iraq with the promise of an expedited citizenship, and that citizenship never came. So they came back with PTSD. Some of them turned to drugs or marijuana self-care, whatever it was, and they were no longer good enough for this country, so they kicked them out. A lot of them feel that feeling of resentment, and just like they weren't good enough to continue in our beautiful country. However, there's obviously a lot to be said about that. So the fact that they're here calling, and I hope that we can all support them. And with that, City Manager, I'd like to give direction to add them as an agenda item for our next council meeting so that they can come with their nonprofit org and actually present this mural and see how we can help them out. I know that the mural is already done. It's just kind of just like, I wouldn't say just placing it on a wall. It's already done. It's like a canvas. It's completed. So it'll just be us supporting veterans. This mural that I know has a QR code, which you can highlight. You can look over it, and it'll give you a breakdown of all the U.S. veterans that are waiting in TJ to come back home to their families. And I think it's a really good way for us to share that we do support our U.S. veterans, and that it's more than they're not forgotten, that we're still thinking about them, and that we hope that they can one day find their path to citizenship and back to their families here in the U.S. With that said, I also just wanted to touch base really quickly on a few items that I guess I'll save for next time. It's regarding Delta, but I actually don't have much to report on at this moment. But with that said, everybody have a wonderful night. Please be safe. I know it's raining, and I hope you guys are all driving with insurance. Sorry I have to say it. So be careful out there, and that's all for me. Have a good evening.
Council Mayor Pro Tem Pulido.
I want to thank all of our staff for coming together and joining efforts in trying to improve the quality of life of our residents, not only through the park improvements, but also code enforcement, but also at the same time nurturing our partnerships with our local businesses. I think that we do need to have a balance in both ends. But thank you so much for the presentations. And like my colleague said, the holidays or Halloween and Dia de los Muertos are coming up. So please stay safe. And if it does continue to rain, just be mindful of that as well. And we hope to see you during our holiday event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Pulido. And I just want to thank staff for doing everything that you do. In particular, I'm very excited about the project that we have going on at Ford Park. Very quickly, some of the big things that are going to be happening there in the next few months is number one is the groundbreaking that we had to reschedule due to severe weather. But we're going to be putting out the new date for that ASAP. So that's going to mark the beginning of a new chapter. As you guys know, today we added more to the project, more beautification, also a lot of essential things such as the HVAC system for the gym so that you guys can go play basketball during the hot months. and not melt inside the gym. So hopefully we have that ready to go. I know there were big items on the agenda today, but I'm glad that the council is knowledgeable and is prepared to approve these items as they come forth. Please remember that staff is always available so that if you want to educate your constituents, you can get ahead of the curve and have a meeting with the directors, have a meeting with the city manager, and then you can communicate that to your audience, whoever that is. But again, thank you all for being supportive of the big accomplishments that this council has put forward. We're going to be seeing a lot of that coming up at the end of the year and then early next year. And I think it's just going to be amazing to see how much work we put forward this year. So thank you guys for everything again. Thanks to staff. Thank you to the city manager. Thanks to the police department, community development department, public works, also finance department. I don't think we ever give you enough credit there. And you guys have a good night and take care. Meeting adjourned. She was like, what?